Welcome back to Politics 2015. Dave Barry along with our Mayor Lynn Hall. Lynn, jumping back to the election campaign, one of the things we heard a lot were the challenges, if we can put it like that, within City Council in the last term. And there were a lot of councillors who discussed the challenges with bringing forward their ideas during the last council. Can you talk about that a little bit and talk about how that changed things in the last council and how you plan to change that in this one?
Well, I think that the last council, we got caught up early on in the core review. And the core review was something that we all supported around the table and moved forward on. But it stuck around probably longer than we'd anticipated. And as a result, I think some of the things that we wanted to try to get on the table didn't necessarily get on there in as timely a manner as we wanted to. So there was that piece of it. And I think my approach is, through our strategic planning session, is that we really want to make sure that each individual councillor who campaigned on various things have an opportunity to bring that into this session. And we need to talk about those various issues they put on the table during the campaign and what that looks like within our planning session. And it needs to form part of our strategic plan over the next 4 years. This isn't just about myself or 2 or 3 other councillors. This is about the entire team of 9 bringing their issues forward and having them dealt with and having them part of our mandate over the 4 years.
But 9 different people with 9 different points of view. Certainly, some have to drop off the table.
Well, some may drop off the table, but they still need to be heard, Dave. And that's the beauty of having 9 of us around the table.
Well, is that what was not happening last time?
Well, I don't know that it was not happening. It's just that it was difficult to bring things forward. And much of it was in the core review already. But I think that the core review just really got us into a position where we were focused on trying to get through that document, and it was huge, and it was an awful amount of work for us to get through in that term. And I think my approach is going to be, from the start, let's talk about each individual councillor's views and issues that they want to bring to the table, and how do we deal with that through that planning session and get them out as part of our mandate and structure over the 4-year term.
All right. Very quickly, if you could do it all over again, would you have done the core review?
Yeah, I would have, because for me as a new councillor, it was an opportunity for me to understand the operation of our city. And for me, it was a real learning experience. And every time I turned around, I was learning something different as a result of the core review. But as I said, most core reviews aren't meant to stick around for a tremendously long period of time. When I was on the school board, we did reviews on an annual basis, and they were really identified as quick snapshots of what we had to do. But by all means, the core review for me was a real educational opportunity when it came to the functioning and the operation of the city.
So now we've got a new council with 9 different people. Well, some of them are the same, but we've got 9 different points of view sitting at the table for your planning session. So how do you handle this differently than, say, in the previous 3 years, as far as bringing everybody's points of view out? Because at the end of the day, Councillor A and Councillor B may not agree on some issues.
Yeah, that's healthy. And I would suspect that some of us aren't going to agree with each other on some of the issues. But my point being, Dave, is that everybody brought an issue or 2 or 3 or 4 to the table during the campaign, whether it was fiscal responsibility. For me, it was the reconnection of council. Others want to talk more about infrastructure. Those need to be topics of discussion with all of council. Not saying that we're going to each agree on them, but they need to be discussed, and there needs to be a plan set in place as to how we deal with each one of those issues.
Now, one of the issues as well that came out of the core review was cuts, and staff morale suffered because of that, because of the changes that were made that came through the core review. So how now do you get, and you did get the CUPE support, which is the city staff in the election, but how do you deal with the staff morale issue?
Well, I think I've dealt with, starting on December 2nd, I and a number of other councillors have made the rounds throughout our operation at 18th Avenue and also at City Hall. And it's just being, I think, more connected to the staff, more connected to staff concerns. That's a big part of it. And I am in the building every day at City Hall, and every day I try to get through each floor. And I think that's a big start of it. Staff morale is at an all-time low, there's no question. And as I said during the campaign day, the staff are our partner. So you may not see City Council out and about every day, but you're going to see our crews out and about every day, and they're the face of the city. And so there needs to be a partnership there. And we're going to work pretty hard to make that happen.
Well, you were the chair with the school district, 57. There were a number of school closures,
Yep.
and obviously staff morale suffered
Yep.
during that period of time. What lessons did you learn during that period that you can bring over?
I think one important one, Dave, and that's to have a plan as to how you were going to deal with those school closures. So with the city, what is our plan? But more importantly, what's our end goal? So it's good to have a plan in place, obviously, but you need to identify your end goal and make sure that your plan is going to get there. A timeline is important, so that's the key for me. And we're going to be talking a lot about that at the planning session.
Well, what are some of the measurable benchmarks, if we could?
Well, I think some of the benchmarks are going to be around the work we're going to have to do around our infrastructure and how we plan out the financial piece of replacing our infrastructure. Is that a 5, 10, 15-year plan? How does that look? What's the end result going to be, and when is that end result going to happen? We're going to have a facilities review information come to us. So what does that look like? What are we going to be faced with in the community? Those are two big benchmarks, I think, for this council.
And when do you think those need to be?
Well, I honestly think that we need to start talking about those very early. I said during the campaign that those two particular items will be first and foremost on the agenda of the new council. They're that important and that necessary for council to deal with immediately. We're talking about facilities like the Coliseum and the Four Seasons pool, our rinks, all of our facilities that people expect to be up and running all the time. So what is it going to take, and what do we need to put into those facilities to maintain them? What kind of plan do we have in place to ensure that they're refurbished on an annual basis and that we keep them up and running and to a certain threshold?
So 1 year from now, what has to happen for you to feel like you've done a good job in the first year?
Well, I think a year from now, and I hate to set benchmarks, but I think a year from now, if I can look back and say we've met the financial plan for infrastructure, we've dealt with our facilities deficit, I'll be pretty happy.
All right. Okay, we'll take a quick break and come back with more from our Mayor, Lynn Hall, on Politics 2015.